Happy to be here today and provide an overview of PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy Financing is really what the acronym is. It's missing the F at the end. I guess that would be an awkward acronym, so it's just called PACE. And really, this is a tool that allows property and facility managers to, as we like to say, pay for today's upgrades using tomorrow's savings. So that's really kind of the critical piece and the critical structure here, what makes PACE different. So I'm going to jump into it now. My background, I now serve as the CEO of the Texas PACE Authority. As of January this year, our founding president retired at the end of last year, and I had been working as a consultant with Texas PACE Authority for the last five. So I've now transitioned from chief operating officer to CEO. Prior to that, with the state of Texas for almost 30 years, where I served as the director of the State Energy Conservation Office for a couple of decades. There, we managed public sector oriented energy efficiency, engineering, project finance, technical assistance programs, a variety of them focused just on the public sector. And so PACE is just for private. So it's a nice complement to my career in the public sector. And actually brings me full circle because where I started was actually in the commercial real estate business, property management, appraisal, tax consulting. And so PACE really kind of ties those two worlds together. So everything I'm going to cover today and more is on our website. So texaspaceauthority.org. And just to navigate the website, there are drop-down menus across the top. What is PACE? Getting started, service areas. Oops, sorry about that. Uh, Project list, resources, a lot of things there, news and events, and again, more than you could ever think. And then also this little magnifying glass up there if you just are trying to find something on the website or think it might be there, but you can't navigate to it. That's a broad search tool. So that's a great resource beyond the webinar, and I'm going to cover many things that are actually on the website. So as you can see from our cover page there, which rotates again, as I've said, you pay for today's energy and water efficiency improvements with tomorrow's savings, and you can enhance your capital stack, your capital planning with Texas PACE as well. We have closed over $600 million in financing through over the last 10 years through a variety of different projects. And over the past couple of years, we've really started to see sort of hockey stick like growth as there's more awareness about PACE as a financing tool. And there are gaps, increasing gaps in capital stacks, and of course, the need for more energy and water efficiency investments. So the problem, or problems, plural, that PACE was really designed to address are these. And the assumption here is that property, facility managers, energy managers, plant managers know that they can save money over the long run by investing in more efficient water and energy systems and upgrades. The challenges, of course, are there's a financial hurdle. If you are a business owner, a small business, you're probably looking at making payroll next month. You're looking at growing the business. Those are your priorities for your own internal capital. Making facility investments for energy and water efficiency that have very long paybacks or longer paybacks is probably not your priority. And then if you are in a larger organization and there is internal capital available for infrastructure reinvestment type projects, oftentimes there is a very tight payback or ROI window. So you may see, you may have a lot of need, a lot of projects that have been scoped, energy and water efficiency. However, maybe they have a 4 or a 5 or a 7 or a 10-year payback, and which is still very good considering probably the energy intensity and water intensity of these operations. But your ROI for corporate capital may be, a year, 2 years, 3 years. So there's a disconnect there. So the result of this in both scenarios, kind of small business and then larger industry and larger entities as well, is that equipment fails. And run to fail is a strategy. It's probably not the best strategy, but oftentimes that's what happens, and it's replaced on an emergency basis. Probably the equipment that you would expect had you had more of a planning horizon may not be available. It could be long lead items, et cetera. So you take what you can get. And so, the strategy really, addressing things that fail on a piecemeal basis or close to failure results also in, cost premium because those improvements, those systems, those repairs, are unplanned, unscheduled, and of course have a premium associated with them. And then also by not really stepping back and addressing the facility holistically, you miss optimization opportunities. So there's waste and inefficiency as a result of that, and higher energy and water consumption that would be really necessary or ordinarily again with a longer planning cycle. So that's really kind of on the retrofit side. And then in the case of new construction, inevitably what comes into play is a engineer, designer, architect designs a system, a building, really kind of in an optimal state. Bids come in, and there's always limitations on construction budgets, and so critical elements start becoming value engineered out. And that's the term, of course, and sort of always. I guess I should maybe have the quotes around the value because the question is, is that really valuable? I think obviously to make the budget, that's the term. However, that is really focusing on short-term savings at the expense of long-term costs. So the things that are less visible in a commercial building, it's not the finishes, it's not the ambiance, it's not the lobby, it's not the things that tenants and building occupants touch and feel. The things that get cut are behind the walls, on the roof, in the penthouse, mechanical systems. And so those things have, those decisions, those sort of short sighted decisions, have very long consequences. And so that happens. And then these days, cost of money is higher. So higher borrowing costs and less available capital generally through traditional sources means that there are gaps in the capital stack that owners are trying to fill creatively without having to commit more internal capital. And all of this really in the sort of the current scenario, not only in Texas nationally, but globally, where we have these increasing demands on energy and water resources driving prices up. And so that means the value of these investments is even higher. All right. So a solution for this property assessed clean energy or PACE. So PACE, this is a financing tool. It's really a financing structure that allows for long-term, low-cost, 100% funding, and that is 100% funding of the project for energy, water conservation, and distributed generation projects. So that's really kind of the short, high-level overview. This is private financing, but it's secured by a special local property assessment that remains in place over the life of the improvements. And so, if you're familiar with a PID, a public improvement district, a property improvement district, if you're in Houston, one of the best examples of this is the Galleria. Why is it that the Galleria has underground utility lines and nice landscaping and streets and signs that are different? It's because that is a district that the property owners agreed to provide special funding for those infrastructure improvements, even though it's in the city of Houston, just like the neighboring areas. So it's like a single parcel PID. And so the owner says, I want to make these improvements in my property. I agree to a local property assessment equal to the value of whatever the financing is. And that really is what provides security for a much longer term than ordinarily would be available through equipment financing. That's really the key. So PACE is authorized under state law. Specifically, the Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 399, is the statute that provides the structure for PACE, how it can be set up, how it can be operated. Two of the key features, it's in Texas and in many other states. I'll talk about other states in a moment. It is voluntary and open market. So, not a regulation, not a requirement. This is a tool in the toolkit that a property owner or a facility manager can access. Open market, that means that any lender can provide the financing, any contractor can do the work, any eligible property and property owner can access the program. So there's not a prescribed list or set limitation on the different stakeholders that can be involved in the project. So truly just a conduit, if you will, and open to the owners desires for putting their team together and scoping the project. Local government enabled. This is really important again because it is the assessment mechanism that makes PACE different, and that's what secures the longer term financing. So local governments have to establish PACE in a very deliberate way. There are 2 meetings they have to hold, including a public hearing, and adopt documents that align with the enabling statute. And so in Texas, we now have over 100 cities and counties that have enabled PACE. And if you look at the map, this is on our website. What the diagram shows is if the county is shaded, it means that PACE has been adopted at the county level. So any eligible property anywhere within the county can access PACE. If you see a star on the map, then that means it's been adopted at the city level. So typically, the city and the ETJ surrounding the city is what the eligible areas are. And then where you see the little light bulbs, that's where there have been projects. So this map sort of ties all those things together. So all together in Texas, even though this looks like a bit of a patchwork because Texas is a really big state, all the major metro areas are covered, essentially kind of the Texas Triangle, where the majority of our commerce is done, is covered, and about 75% of the state's population overall. So pretty much, if you're looking to use PACE, it probably is already available. If it's not, then the local government can establish that, and we work with them to support that. So once the local government sets up the PACE mechanism, then what? They don't want to create a PACE department, understandably. And so that's where we come in. So our organization was formed a decade ago to be a shared resource among cities and counties that wanted to offer PACE financing programs. So we are a 501c3 public service nonprofit. And I jokingly say our job is to referee the transactions and on behalf of the cities and the counties to make sure that any application, any PACE transaction meets the letter of the law, that adequate engineering, technical evaluation has been performed. We review all of that. We actually do a sort of a fourth party engineering review again, so to make sure that the benefits and the costs are in alignment. And so all of that is really the oversight and the governmental function. And that layers over what otherwise is really just a private transaction. So property owner would identify, okay, what's the scope of my project, working with contractors. Then they would identify a lender to provide financing for it. And so that is really a private transaction. And then layered on top of that is the PACE function, which again provides much longer term and favorable financing terms. So PACE is not just in Texas. About, I think, almost 40 states now have passed PACE enabling legislation. It is not a federal program. Be clear about that. We had a lot of questions when some prioritization at the federal level sort of swings one way or the other. And the question is, well, does that mean that this thing is no longer available? The answer is it is, because in every state it is enabled at the state level. So not a federal program, even though the map here across the country is filling in and more states are adopting. In fact, some of these that aren't colored, I heard recently Arizona, Alabama, South Carolina were moving forward, and so almost colored in. So what's eligible in terms of the property? So any commercial property, this could include retail, hospitality, office, recreation, even nonprofits. We've had several projects that have been at churches and other nonprofits just because they're a nonprofit it's still a private entity, and so that's really the key. Residential multifamily, the only thing really not eligible is single family residential and residential with 4 units or less. On the industrial and business and manufacturing side, any sort of industrial property, this could be warehouse, distribution, manufacturing, any of that falls under the sort of the broad definition of commercial. Sorry about that. Manufacturing, this could be any type of manufacturing, chemical manufacturing, refining, which there's obviously a huge base and opportunity here in Texas. Data centers, which we're seeing more and more, can both on the infrastructure side as well as on-site power, chillers, temperature control, all those elements. agricultural. And then if the property is not owned, the land is not owned by the owner of the improvements, they can still use it that way as well. There's a leasehold arrangement, and we've had a couple of projects where it is private improvements on public property, and that's possible as well. So the projects themselves, retrofit repurposing, so new, upgraded mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems, building envelope, walls, windows, doors, roof, reflective roofs, reducing thermal heat gain, things like that. Any sort of water conservation, water reuse, connecting to purple pipe, any of that, even rainwater collection, you name it. On-site generation, technology agnostic. So even though the C in PACE stands for clean and clean energy, there's not a requirement that it be renewable energy necessarily. Now we do see a lot of on-site solar, just because it's a pretty quick and easy plug and play solution if that works for the facility. But we have a couple of data centers now that are looking at utilizing PACE and to provide the financing for gas turbines and on-site battery storage to help with steady power supply for those facilities. So technology agnostic on-site generation, as long as it's generating power or thermal energy on the customer side of the meter. For new construction, if you are designing a building or facility to be above code, or if a code doesn't apply above industry standards, and it involves higher performance energy and water systems, then PACE can be used to finance those higher performance energy and water systems, not the balance of the project necessarily, but those systems themselves. And this can be in the installed cost, so not just the equipment. So there could be design, permitting, engineering, installation, could be removal of old equipment. All of that would be financeable. And then if the project has been completed and otherwise would have qualified for PACE, and it's been completed in the last 24 months, PACE can be used to recapitalize or refinance. And so an owner, may be able to pull cash out of the project for further investment and refinance a portion of it through PACE. So individually, the improvements that we're looking at in the yellow box, that's really the important part, and this mirrors what's in state law. So if the project reduces energy or water usage or demand, I should say, add that as well, or generates power on site, then it is something that is potentially PACE eligible. So there's not this laundry list of projects here. Is there informationally? This is not in statute or anything else. These are just examples. But the key thing is that the project has to reduce energy or water usage or generates power on site. So as you can see on the energy side here, typical, commercial building HVAC, lighting efficiency, building control systems, moving from air cooled to higher efficiency water geothermal systems, on-site power, combined heating and power, that certainly would qualify. On the industrial side, higher efficiency, process heaters, compressors, pumps, blowers, other elements in the processing streams, burner upgrades, combustion upgrades, heat recovery, and steam traps, all those things from an industrial standpoint, again, would qualify. So this isn't just for commercial buildings. It's, again, for any energy or water consuming facility. And then on the water side, a whole host of things, water heating, on-site power, on-site recovery, condensate, et cetera, reclamated water use, mentioned that, water management systems, and irrigation as well. So those are examples. So what makes PACE different, we talked about this a couple times already, is, again, allows you to pay for today's upgrades with tomorrow's savings. And it helps improve the assets, both the value and the performance, in a way that is budget neutral and or cash flow positive in most cases. So the two graphs here, the one on the left, traditional equipment financing. If you don't have access to capital and you are financing the equipment, typically that is a fairly short runway for the financing term. It's oftentimes 5, 6, 7 years. That's maybe it. And the reason for that is equipment financing is considered unsecured. And so the lender wants to get their repayment, their money back quickly, because the longer the term, the higher the risk. And the problem with that is that your repayments are higher than the savings that are created from the project. So if you look at that repayment bar on the left under equipment financing, there's a disconnect. You're paying more than you're benefiting, and so this is not a terribly appealing arrangement for property owners. And so they're sort of upside down from a cash flow standpoint. And one of the reasons that a lot of these investments don't get made. PACE, on the other hand, by using the local assessment as security, allows that repayment term to equal whatever the useful life of the project is. So that could be 15, 20, 25, 30 years, depending on what it is. So that means that your savings are equal to or greater than the costs over the term of the financing. And so your net operating income has increased throughout the life of the loan, and this is a much more appealing proposition. So that's really what makes PACE different than equipment financing, which is where we see it replacing, that as an alternative. So how has this all worked? It's more than theory. We have, I mentioned, over $600 million in projects that have closed across the state. We track both the dollar savings, I should say the dollar savings. We calculate job creation. These can be temporary construction jobs, but also permanent jobs in the case of, say, a new hotel that gets built and utilizes PACE. So those are service jobs. We track energy and water and natural gas savings and then calculate environmental impact on the project. So all the projects that have closed are listed here on the website, and I'm going to go through some of these to show you some illustrations of how this all really works. So if you go to our project list, you'll see a listing like this. It's sortable by any of the columns, as well as there's a search function. So if you're looking for, a project that has boiler replacements, you can search, it'll bring those up. So these are pretty typical. This is a new construction of an office building up in Brazos County in Bryan. Here they're using about $15 million of PACE financing for improved building envelope, electrical, HVAC, and water. So they're essentially, sort of future proofing the facility by at the outset investing these higher efficiency systems. The one just under it, this is in a smaller county in East Texas, where this is a historic school building used for a daycare that needed pretty much everything, fallen into disrepair. So HVAC, lighting, et cetera, solar as well on site. A smaller project here, this Baptist church just added solar. Over in Fredericksburg, in the Hill Country, a new hotel being constructed there, again, going higher than code requirements for building envelope, water efficiency, and electrical. A retail here, this one at the bottom, this is a hotel in San Antonio downtown that did a top to bottom renovation, and they utilized PACE for all of the eligible mechanical, electrical, and plumbing upgrades. Multifamily, we see it used a lot. This is a great way to make these either an improvement or, again, kind of future-proof from the get-go. So a lot of multifamily projects. This is a conversion of a downtown building. Pearl Point is these couple here are the first new rental housing and multifamily housing that were built in the path of Hurricane Harvey. They're in Aransas County, badly needed rental property for the service industry, and then a couple of others that are conversions. Yep. Okay, can go back. Medical, new hospital up in Northeast Texas, Clarksville, Beaumont Behavioral Center, Tyler Regional Hospital. This was interesting, the Tyler Hospital, because not only did they do sort of the kind of the bread and butter project type we see in PACE, but also they centralized their sterilization facility. And instead of having that as a distributed sort of not optimally managed system within their hospital, now they have a better, there's a cost and efficiency benefit from having centralized sterilization. So there's some kind of out of the box project ideas that PACE can support. Hospitality, some of these are conversions of existing buildings or upgrading of existing buildings. Some are new. The Monarch Hotel over on the right, and the JW Marriott underneath it. Monarch is in San Antonio, right downtown. JW Marriott, same downtown Dallas, kind of the arts area. So again, these are all using higher efficiency energy and water systems, building envelope, either at new construction at the point of design and implementation, or is a retrofit. So ranging from, just looking at the list here, 3 million to 48 million. So that's kind of the range. Again, since this is private capital, there's not a limit. There's not essentially a budget where you would apply for a portion of money available through the program. It is private lenders. And so to the extent private lenders have capital available, and they do, there's a tremendous amount of capital looking for investments like this out there. So there's really no functional upper limit that we have found yet. Recreation projects, theaters, other things that have used PACE again for largely for building envelope and MEP type system improvements. Manufacturing, it's one of the top, pretty small project in Northeast Texas. The interesting thing here is they replaced a very inefficient manual process of making cabinets with a more automated system that's really more additive manufacturing, using thermal processes to take blanks and sort of weld them together through a glue and thermal process instead of a router and a removal process. This increased their throughput considerably, and also decreased their electricity consumption. So their electricity cost per unit produced went way down as a result of this project that PACE financed. So looking at a manufacturing facility that may have hundreds or thousands of metering points, looking at that more from a input output model, we were able to simplify the engineering calculations for this one, and that was again a great use of PACE to improve not only reduce energy and water consumption, but also to increase throughput. Religious, these are, I mentioned, nonprofits. One of the top is actually the very first PACE project in the state, a synagogue that ironically has solar panels on the roof, which were donated by a member of the congregation, but the mechanical systems, the things behind the walls, were still unaddressed. And so PACE was able to step in and help out with those components. We see a lot of solar in churches and nonprofits, as well as any sort of needed capital improvements and water and MEP and other systems. Retail, a lot of retail. We've several malls owned by Simon Properties actually sort of closed as a package. They did a very similar improvement set to them all and rolled them all into a single financing to sort of leverage those together versus having 5 individual projects. And so those are there on the left. Other types of retail projects, small and large, on the right. And then I think finally here, senior living, and we've done a couple of projects. These are both actually new construction that are higher efficiency. Makes a lot of sense if you think about it. You want to have lower water usage and more predictable operating costs for senior living facilities for the unit owners and tenants and those living on site. So that's a good use of it as well. The one at the top in Houston, talking to the developer there, I asked him, I said, I didn't realize that people looking to move into retirement homes and senior living centers, that energy, water efficiency, sustainability was their priority. And he said, well, it isn't necessarily, but those aren't really our customers. It's their kids who are our customers, and they want mom and dad to be in a place that is obviously bright, appealing, but also energy, water efficient, and sustainable. So as we see more senior living projects, that will be probably more of a focus. The wrong way. Sorry about that. Okay. So those are actual projects, and there are many more, as well as case studies on our website. And so to get from here to there, from sort of the baseline to the project, there are steps. This is essentially a real estate financing transaction, and so there are different elements to it. There's really a kind of a pre-application feasibility component and then a post-application. So, first of all, what is there a project? Is there a need? Does it is the facility in an active PACE area? If yes, okay, what's the scope? Is it energy and water efficiency? Does it have the potential to pay back? What does the ROI look like? Partnering with a lender. Sorry, partnering with a lender to that an appropriate type of lender. Some lenders focus just on commercial real estate. Some are looking more for larger. Some are looking for smaller projects. Some are looking for more infrastructure projects. So higher capital investment. On larger systems. So finding the right lender is good, and then preparing the application. All that is really kind of the pre work. Then once the application's filed, because this is a government assessment, a special assessment, it is senior to any other debt that's on the property. So if there is a mortgage, then that mortgagee has to provide consent. And that's a process we will work with the owner on and work with the lender. Then step seven, and this is an important piece. I mentioned earlier the engineering aspect of this all. So ITPR stands for Independent Third Party, and that is a Texas licensed PE that must review the projected savings and costs associated with the project and sign off on that. And so, yes, these look reasonable. So that's to provide the owner, a higher level of comfort that, hey, is this project or the savings going to materialize? Is this going to pay back as expected? Then closing on the financing, installing the upgrades, and then that same engineer that did the pre-construction review actually does an installation verification to make sure that the project is installed correctly and operating as intended and will be delivering the benefits that the owner's expecting. So a couple of QC steps in there. On the financial side, underwriting, so we have a savings to investment ratio requirement. So the utility and or operating savings and financial savings are what we consider on the savings side. And the cost obviously is the install cost of the project. Those must be in balance. And so a savings to investment ratio of one or greater is required. Again, this is verified by an independent Texas licensed PE. Loan to value, you can use PACE for up to 35% of the total property's value. And this can either be based on a tax or a CAD, a Central Appraisal District assessment, or it can be an independent appraisal. And if the project today, on a retrofits basis, say for easy math, is $750,000, and you add 250 of project that's PACE finance. Now the value is $1 million. Okay, that 250 is 25%, and that's within the 35% LTV. So loan to value, that's based on the entire property as complete improved, and that's the upper limit. Loan term is not predefined. So based on the project itself, that defines how long the PACE financing term can be. So we look at the weighted useful life of whatever's being financed. And if it is, for example, a lighting project that might have a 10 or a 12-year estimated useful life, and it's just a lighting project, then that would be the loan term. If it's HVAC that might have a 15 or 20, okay, that combined with the lighting might stretch it to 17, 18 years. If you add solar that has a 25-year manufacturer warranty on the panels themselves, okay, that might stretch it to 2025. So on average, we see the term for PACE loans being in the neighborhood of 20 years. They can be shorter if the owner wants to prepay or repay if available capital becomes available. That's an option. You're not necessarily locked into this for the long term. They can be prepaid like any other sort of financing. And then again, the mortgage holder consent in PACE is interesting because in the event of a default, typically, with any other project financing, that would trigger, collection efforts, default process, potentially foreclosure on the property. With PACE, structured as an assessment. It's like more like a property tax, where in the event of a default, only the payment that is in arrears is due. So just like you don't, in the event of a default of a property, you don't pre-collect the next 30 years of property taxes. It's the same structure for PACE. So it's non-accelerating, and that's really a key feature as well. So to kind of summarize things, and you've heard of win-win-wins, and so we think that PACE is that plus a couple more. Property owners obviously are benefiting through lower utility bills, increased resilience benefits, on-site power, battery storage, things that give you ride-through capability. Maybe as part of an overall project, you want to be able to island critical facilities as part of that upgrade, again, for resilience benefits. Um, Property values increase. A subsequent owner looking at the property now doesn't have to do these upgrades and projects. They're probably good for another 15 or 20 years, and not have to deal with out of service, inconvenience of construction and renovation work, that sort of thing. So those are all benefits for the owners. For contractors, 9 times out of 10, a contractor goes out to a site, scopes a project, presents a bid, and the owner says it's not in the budget. I will call you when we can, and so it doesn't get done. So this is a way that financing can be paired with a sort of a holistic solution provided by contractors to move the project forward. That results obviously in jobs and investment in the community. Also, as energy and water efficiency technology advances, an opportunity for contractors to have practical experience with that, so they can sort of stay ahead of the curve. For lenders, this is a new loan product. Any lender can be a PACE lender. It's stable, it's fully collateralized, tax assessment lien position again, and improved asset value. So all of those are appealing from a lender standpoint. And then at the state level, okay, when the state of Texas considered the Texas PACE Act a decade ago or 12 years ago, some of the higher level priorities were we're running out of water. And as we increase demand for water, both through population growth, increase with water usage for the economy, for growth in industry, data centers, you name it, we need to be smarter about managing the water that we have. And so that's a high priority. Reducing peak demand on the grid, that's both in the summer and the winter. So obviously you can bend the curve or lower that peak collectively through enhanced energy efficiency. Distributed generation as a resilient power source. If you have ever lost power because of a storm, and probably everyone has, that can have a critical impact on business operations. And so again, a way to help provide financing for those resilient systems, indirectly improved air quality. If we're reducing consumption of electrons, say within the ERCOT grid, uh, from combustion sources, then indirectly we're having a positive impact on air quality uh, from those sources. And then, as the last but not least, from a community standpoint, why would a city or a county say, "Yeah, we want to offer this"? This is a tool in the toolkit that can help with economic development and job creation within the community. Results in improved building stock, lower demand on infrastructure and energy water systems. So really, again, a win-win, win-win-win. So more resources, and I know these slides will be provided later. So these are live links you can go to. Everything I've said and more, again, is on our website. Uh, the program guide technical standards are there as well. Case studies beyond what I've shown you this afternoon, just the snapshots of the project. There are more in-depth case studies that are there. Service provider directory, this is very important. So if this lists lenders, PACE lenders that we have vetted and approved. This also lists contractors that have done some basic training on PACE and understand how it works and how to integrate it into projects. So if you're a contractor and you'd be interested in being listed there, there's a pathway to do that. And then we do events and training all the time, because even though this is now, really a 12-year operational program in Texas. For many people, it's the first time they've ever heard of it, and that will continue to happen. So we're constantly educating and re-educating, and appreciate the opportunity to partner here with UH Energy today to again help get the word out.